Hello, Taylor Elwood, your mad scientist and magical experimenter at magicalexperiments.com. Well, you probably noticed that this video is coming a day later than it normally does, and that's because it's been one hell of a week. My wife got sick with pneumonia, bronchitis, and sinusitis, and so everything went topsy-turvy. It happens. One of the things that went topsy-turvy was my daily practice. I didn't do daily meditation this week. Normally I would, but I wasn't able to because I was focused on taking care of my wife and making sure that my kids got to school and that I got them from school, and that disrupted my sleeping schedule. So, a lot of things kind of went topsy-turvy, and I had to focus on what was really important, which was that. So today was like the first day that I got back to my daily practice, and I'm just like, oh, it feels so good to do this again. Well, what am I talking about today? Well, what I'm talking about today is the importance of having an energetic reserve, an energetic tank, if you will, a battery tank, if you will, that you can draw on in times of crisis. And this week's a perfect example of that. I do my daily practices in part to work with my internal energy and to really to kind of build on the stuff that I'm doing. So if I'm not doing those practices, I'm not building on what I already got. At the same time, one of the things that I've set up over many years ago was I set up a energetic reserve. And that energetic reserve basically is magical energy that I can draw on when and where I need it if I don't have enough on hand. It's a tank. It's a battery tank, and the reason I've done that is because I recognized way back when that there would be situations where I wouldn't always have the amount of energy I needed to draw on, and so it would be a very good idea to have it. If you've ever read Jim Butcher's The Dresden Files books, the main character there, he talks about having an energetic reserve. At some point, he finally figures out that that's a good idea. He sets one up. Well, it's a similar idea to that. It's basically like, okay, I need to have this energy on hand, and the way that I look at it is that you have this energy so that when you can't do certain things, or if you need to do something that draws on that energy, you can do that. Like for me, I was focused this week on doing a lot of healing work on my wife. In conjunction with the medicine she was taking, that healing work made all the difference. But if I hadn't had that energetic reserve, it would have been a lot harder to do that healing work and still have some of that energy left over for myself. And I needed that energy for myself because I also had to put some of it into helping me with the driving and everything, getting up for the driving and then and doing it. I was doing a lot of driving this last week, so it was very intense. So having that energy on hand to draw on when I needed it, especially in a case where maybe I'd only had a few hours of sleep, because my schedule I'm a night owl, so my schedule is a little bit different in some ways, and so I'd go to bed at 2:30 and then have to get up at like 6:30 in order to go take my daughter to school. That was only a few hours of sleep. It was not fun. So I needed to be able to draw on those energetic reserves for that as well. So how do you go about creating an energetic reserve? Well, you can do it in a couple of different ways. You can link it to a physical object. So we'll just pretend for a moment this is a magical object, right? It's really not, but hey, get the idea. You could have it set up so that you put energy into that object and draw on it. So sometimes magicians will wear necklaces or rings or whatnot. Those are great examples of that. Or you have like you see my staff back there, my magical staff. That's another example of where you can do that. I'll be honest with you, I really don't put a lot of excess energy into physical objects. The reason for that is because you can lose that physical object and then that energy is gone. So for me, what I do is I've created an energetic tank astrally that I can draw on, and so that reserve it's set up for me to have access to whenever I need it, and all I have to really do is just kind of think about it, or I don't even know if it's really thinking about it. It's just more like, okay, I need this energy, and then I draw on it, and there it is. So that would be what I would recommend, is setting up an astral tank reserve. so that you can draw on it as needed. I would save, if you want to put magical energy into objects, and I've done that a fair amount, I typically do that for purposes of enchanting those objects for specific purposes in order to help me. Like with the magic staff, if you're going to put energy into the staff, you're using that energy to represent the staff, but also to help you achieve certain functions and purposes where you don't have to put as much effort into it because you have the staff there for that purpose. That's why you put energy into physical objects. But in the case of the tank reserve, it's just energy that's there when you need it. Now, when you draw on that energy, of course that tank's going to get depleted. So what do you do to fill it back up? And what do you do to fill it up in the first place, you might ask? Well, good questions. Here's the way that I work it. I basically have it set up that when I'm not drawing on that energy, when I'm doing my daily practices, a little bit of the energy that I'm putting into those practices is getting siphoned off into that tank, but also just my daily activities. So for example, if I'm swimming, some of that energy is actually, that I'm putting into the swimming is actually going into the tank. If I'm if I'm writing or something else, yes, I'm being all creative, that some of that creative energy is also going into the tank. Because what's happening is okay, yes, we're exerting ourselves, we're doing something, but at the same time, that process of doing, we are, we're engaged with other things. So like with creative, when I'm being creative, when I'm feeling that writing going on, or the painting, or whatever else, I'm tapping into that creativity, and so I will take some of that and redirect it over into the tank. And then of course there's also just the beauty of filtering energy out around you. So, if someone sends you something nasty and you've got, decent shields up and all that stuff, well, what I like to do is I like to actually filter that energy and get rid of the, the nasty crap, let that go back to the idiot who decided to send it my way, and put the rest into the tank. So, hey, they're helping me out. So you get the idea. So look at any of your activities, look at anything else that's going on, and ask yourself, how can I take some of this energy that's already there and pop it into the old energetic tank? And then you have it for when you need it. Alright folks, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an excellent day. If you have comments, feel free to leave them below. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, please click on the T. And I look forward to talking with you again soon. Take care.